Now from the University of Okoboji, it's Okoboji Broadcast with Jeff Thee.
Welcome to Okoboji Broadcast, everybody. It's History Wednesday, coming to you from the Dickinson County Museum. I'm Jeff Thee. Here with me today, I have, of course, Director Mary Dreyer and guest of honor, Ed Purdy is here with us. You're of honor, Ed. How about that?
Thank you. There's a first for everything.
If you wait around long enough, good things happen.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, Mary, last week you and I talked about a great event. You're getting a wonderful response on this. Tomorrow night we're going to be at the Mazer Monarch Lodge there at the Dickinson County Nature Center. What are we doing?
We are going to be sharing some slides, old glass slides that were given to us by Albert Sharp, Abbie Sharp's great-grandson, that were used by his father, Albert Sharp, also, to tell her story back in the 1930s. These have not been seen since the 1930s, and they are awesome. And Ed Purdy has done, who also is a docent at the Abbie Gardner Cabin, has done a wonderful job of creating a script to go along with these slides. We are also going to have a little musical interlude as a surprise.
Yes.
That was actually given, we're pretty sure, during the time that Albert was showing the slides. So, Nostalgia Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna
it's
be a
going
lot
to
of
be
fun.
great.
7 p.m., correct?
7 p.m. We have had an overwhelming response to this. We are so pleased. I just want to remind folks that you can live stream it on our Facebook page at 7 p.m. Iowa time. And over the weekend, we will be uploading it to YouTube also for viewing at your leisure at any time.
Yeah. So, and if you're actually coming in person, with the response you've gotten, it wouldn't hurt to get there. Don't come at 7.
No, don't come at 7. Please come a little early. If you
There's
can.
good seating there, but you want to get good seats and make sure that if you come with a group of people, you all get to sit together and so forth.
Right.
So the earlier the better.
Right, and I just want to also highlight that this is being co-sponsored by the Friends of the Abbie Gardner Group, which Ed and I are both members of. So
Imagine
it's
that.
It's a joy.
Imagine you're both a member of that group. I'm
Right.
a little shocked over
So
here.
it is, we're friends, being friends with each other and helping promote a story that just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
So
Free of charge.
free of charge.
Free of charge,
Although
yeah.
donations are appreciated to the
Absolutely.
Dickinson County Museum. We'll have a donation drive. We will be selling copies of Abbie Gardner's The Spirit Lake Massacre book, and it's going to be a great night.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Very good.
I am too. So thank you so much for what you've been doing for us, and Ed for being the huge part of this. I mean, you are the guy. You are the guy.
Welcome. Well, that's it for me then.
No, that's it for me.
Ed's going to tap dance his way out of here now. Well, Ed, welcome, first of all. And
Sure.
when did your interest in Abbie Gardner and the story of the Spirit Lake Massacre, how long have you been a friend of the cabin and so interested in this?
Initially, it started way back when I first moved to Spirit Lake and was at Arnold's Park as a senior in high school, and the Arnold's amusement park, and having fun, and somebody said, "Oh, there's a log cabin up there. Maybe we should go look at it." So I thought, well, okay, I guess so. So did, and was amazed by the fact that after all these years, there that cabin was.
Now, was it marked historically at that time? And when you went up there, could you see what this building was and what it stood for?
Yes, it was marked. However, at the time, which was probably, 1958, 59, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Anyway, at the time, the log cabin had a roof over it, a roof over the roof.
Right.
And it was also enclosed on 4 sides, not totally enclosed, but it had, I guess you'd call them timbers up and down.
Right.
And I was kind of wondering, well, why did they do that? I thought, well, it was to protect the cabin from the elements.
Right.
It turns out that that was not the case, that after the massacre, a person by the name of Prescott came to the cabin. A cynical part of me says, people heard about the massacre and they went, huh, vacant housing.
Oh, okay.
And so at any rate, he basically, I guess you could call it, squatted in there.
Right.
He was there for 2 years, and then he sold the cabin to a family by the name of Pillsbury.
Yes.
Now initially the cabin was just 1 story, and what the Pillsburys did is that they raised it up to be 2 stories high. So a lot of the early pictures of the cabin that you see,
Right.
it shows it having 2 stories.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and they lived there for about 25 years.
Okay.
And of course Pillsbury Point.
Right, yes.
So the state of Iowa in 1974 thought that's not historically accurate. And so they took that top off in 1974 and reverted the cabin to its 1956-57
Okay.
looks. So at any rate, there's a story behind the roof. After Abbie purchased the cabin in 1891, she was going to use it as a tourist attraction and as a museum to preserve the memory of what happened.
Right.
And so there's a sign in back of you there.
Yes.
It says admission 25 cents. That may well have been a sign that Abbie had out in front of that cabin from 1891 to 1920.
Right.
And so she was a pretty smart person.
Yeah.
She knew, oh, by the way, 25 cents then is equivalent to $5.
I was going to say that was a pretty good admission price.
Yeah.
I mean,
$5.
yeah.
But she knew that people would not pay $5 if they could just see the cabin. And so that roof is a remnant of an enclosure.
Oh.
And those posts are the posts to which she attached a lattice work.
Right.
So
it wasn't from standing far from it, you couldn't see
no,
the original cabin structure.
no, actually 10 feet away you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Because the lattice work hit it. So then you pay Abbie $5 and the door opens.
She was a smart business person.
Oh, very.
My goodness.
Very. And she had to be because unfortunately after 15 years of marriage, she was divorced.
Yeah.
And it's always hard as a single parent, but especially in the 1890s, 1880s.
And as Mary and I said before, and as a woman.
True.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, that's the answer to the question.
Very cool. Very interesting. And we're surrounded here by a lot of artifacts from the time of Abbie Gardner around the cabin, like we mentioned, the sign and so forth. You've got an item right here, Ed, that there was, for Abbie and her captors, a reconciliation at some point.
Yes.
And maybe we could talk about that.
Okay. It's appropriate to talk about that because, of course, this is an Indian peace pipe.
Yes.
Made of pipestone. It is also called metamorphic mudstone, quite rare, and up in that Pipestone, Minnesota area.
All right, yes.
That there's about 4 feet of overlay, and then a couple of feet of this pipestone, and it's not easy to quarry. You can dig down and get the pipestone, and then it's soft enough so that you can, it's malleable, and so you can, as this is, make artifacts about it.
Okay.
During the Indian era, when there were no white people, and even after that,
Right.
that was neutral ground. And the Native Americans, like people these days, unfortunately, had altercations and wars.
Yeah.
Not often, but they had them. But this was neutral ground. And the different tribes, even if they were antagonistic toward one another, could come to this area and peacefully dig for their pipestone.
What we might call in modern times going to no man's land.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. And so fighting was not allowed
Right.
and was not done. So how this relates to Abbie. let me go back and just tell you what happened to Abbie when she was 13 years old.
Okay.
The Native Americans, indigenous people, back then, of course, Indians,
Yes.
they came to the door of that cabin. They asked, that was in the evening of March 8th, 1857, they asked if they might have some flour. They didn't have much left, the Gardners didn't, but Mr. Gardner, Roland, went to the flour bin to get some flour, and the Indian shot him, killed him on the spot.
Okay.
Now remember, Abbie, 13 years old.
Yes.
As that was happening, Abbie's sister Mary, who was married to a Harvey Luce, and that family was living with the Gardners. They went, as Abbie describes it, they went to try to get a gun away from the Indians. The Indians, of course, overpowered them, and again in front of Abbie beat her mom to death and her sister Mary to death. And here's an interesting connection, I think, to tomorrow night. There were 3 little children that Abbie had taken care of for the time that they were in the cabin. One was her little brother, Roland Gardner Jr., who was 6 years old. Another was Mary, her sister's little daughter, who was 12 months old, Amanda.
Yeah.
And the other one was, again, her nephew, whose name was Albert. So Abbie, when she was married, named her firstborn Albert. And again, as this scene proceeded, Abbie, in her book, describes it as after watching the deaths of her father, her mother, and her sister, the Indians came after the small children, and they were sitting on a bench. And Abbie said that the children were clinging to her, crying piteously, as she put it, for my protection, which I could not give. And so the Indians took them one by one outside the door of the cabin and beat them to death with firewood logs. And so this is the history of this person who then later was strong enough to come back, buy that cabin, move in for a period of time, and she wanted to preserve the memory. Now, can I back up just a second? The Native Americans had been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. There are 2 or 3 specific occasions in the immediately preceding the massacre where white people had, first of all, murdered who we think was Inkpaduta's brother. Inkpaduta, the leader of the Indian group. So that's a whole nother program, but again, I want to emphasize there were 2 things going on: the basic migration of the Europeans, and then the pushing out of their traditional grounds of the Native Americans.
Did she have any inclination of why they didn't kill her?
Short answer is no. However, I'm far from an expert on Native American culture. However, my understanding is that the Native Americans honored people who came out in the open and said, "Here I am, deal with me," rather than people who cowered under a bush or something. So after Abbie had seen all of this horror in front of her eyes, she describes it this way, that she didn't want to live, no purpose of living. So she went up to Inkpaduta or another of the Indian braves and said, "What are you waiting for? Just get it over with." And there's a possibility that that was...
they honored her bravery.
The other is that she had blondish hair, blue eyes. The Native Americans typically sometimes took captives As you may know, they took 3 other captives
Right.
before they proceeded out to Dakota. So one or both of those, or neither one of those, it's conjecture, but possibility.
But, at all these stories, and of course with the glass slide presentation tomorrow night, and of course retelling the story of his grandmother, who had told the story many, many times, is giving a very first-hand perspective
Exactly.
on the events of that time.
That's an excellent point, Jeff. It's a connection, a direct connection, and many of the slides reflect that.
Yes. So, again, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the Mazer Monarch Lodge at the Dickinson County Nature Center. Begins at 7 p.m. Get there earlier, because you've had, and the finding of these slides for you, who's been friends of Abbie Gardner Cabin and so forth, the recent finding of that had to have been exciting.
Well, Mary accused me of hyperbole because I said it was the King Tut's tomb moment.
Yeah.
But similar in some ways.
Well,
you're exactly right.
Probably one of the most historically noted events of Dickinson County.
Oh, for sure.
And to find something, here we are, 2022, and to find something that her grandson, and that the fact they're painted into color, and his presentation, that is a big find.
It is, and in addition to massacre-related slides, there's many slides tomorrow night related to the very early settlement of Okoboji Spirit Lake area.
Yeah, wonderful. Looking forward to it, Ed. Thank you for taking time here with us and
Sure.
and sharing your knowledge of Abbie Gardner and the history that has followed here in the Iowa Great Lakes. We're greatly appreciated.
Well, it's my pleasure.
All right. Ed Purdy here with us, was Mary Dreyer here with us a little earlier. We want to thank them for taking time. Don't forget about the event tomorrow night at the Mazer Monarch Lodge. And we thank you for watching us right here on Okoboji Broadcast. Okoboji Broadcast from the studios at historic Arnold's Park Amusement Park is brought to you in part by the Scott Troutman State Farm Agency in Spirit Lake, Quest Wealth Management, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, advisor Jan Spielman, AJ Spielman, and Erica Wachholz, Ducky's Marine and Motorsports Repair in Spirit Lake, Bank Midwest, dream big, plan wisely, live well, Lakes Regional Healthcare and Avera Partner, Ruthven Locker at the lake, where carnivores are welcome on Hill Avenue in Spirit Lake, Beck Engineering in Spirit Lake, Be Radiant Laser Skin Studio in the Okoboji Plaza in Okoboji,